Picture this. It's June 15th, 1859, and an American farmer is tending his garden on a remote island in the Pacific Northwest. Suddenly, he spots a large black pig rooting through his precious potato crop. In a moment of frustration, Lyman Cutlar grabs his rifle and shoots the pig dead. Little did he know, this single gunshot would nearly spark a war between the United States and the British Empire. Welcome to the story of the Pig War, one of history's most absurd international conflicts. To understand how a dead pig almost caused a war, we need to go back to the murky world of 1840s border disputes. The Oregon Treaty of 1846 was supposed to settle the boundary between American and British territories in the Pacific Northwest. The treaty stated the border would run along the 49th parallel, then south through the middle of the channel. But here's the problem. There wasn't just one channel. The Americans claimed the boundary ran through Rosario Strait, which would give them San Juan Island. The British insisted it ran through Haro Strait, which would keep the island under their control. San Juan Island sat right in the middle of this dispute, creating a bizarre situation. Both countries claimed the island, but neither wanted to start a war over it. So they agreed to a temporary arrangement, joint occupation. American settlers could live on the island, but they'd be subject to British law. The Hudson's Bay Company, Britain's powerful trading corporation, established a sheep ranch on the island. Charles Griffin managed the ranch and owned that fateful black pig. Meanwhile, American settlers like Lyman Cutlar were trying to make a living farming the island's fertile soil. The arrangement worked reasonably well for over a decade, despite occasional tensions. That is, until that pig decided to go exploring in Cutlar's garden. When Cutlar shot the pig, Griffin demanded compensation. $5 for his prized boar. Cutlar offered $10, but only if Griffin would control his animals. Griffin refused and threatened to have Cutlar arrested by British authorities. This was exactly the kind of jurisdictional nightmare everyone had been trying to avoid. Cutlar, realizing he might be arrested under foreign law, appealed to American authorities for protection. The local American magistrate sent word to the military commander at Fort Bellingham. That commander was Captain George Pickett, who would later become famous at the Battle of Gettysburg. Pickett saw this as his chance for glory and decided to act decisively. On July 27th, he landed on San Juan Island with 66 soldiers and set up camp. Pickett established his position on a bluff overlooking the harbor, perfect for defending against any British response. He then sent a provocative message to the British. Any attempt to arrest an American citizen would be resisted. The British were stunned by this escalation over what they saw as a simple property dispute. Captain Geoffrey Hornby, commanding the British naval forces in the area, was not about to be intimidated. He dispatched HMS Tribune, a powerful warship, to anchor off San Juan Island. The ship's 31 guns were trained directly on Pickett's small camp. Soon, more British ships arrived, creating an impressive show of naval force. The British demanded that Pickett withdraw his forces immediately. Pickett refused, even though he was vastly outnumbered and outgunned. News of the standoff spread quickly, and reinforcements began arriving on both sides. American General William Harney sent additional troops, bringing the U.S. force to nearly 500 men. The British countered by assembling a fleet of 5 warships with over 2,000 sailors and marines. By August, 2 of the world's most powerful nations were facing off over a dead pig. The situation was becoming increasingly dangerous as both sides dug in their positions. Captain Hornby, despite pressure from his superiors, refused to fire the first shot. He reportedly said he wouldn't start a war over a pig. Meanwhile, news of the crisis was racing across the Atlantic to Washington and London. Both governments were horrified to learn how close their forces had come to open warfare. President James Buchanan immediately dispatched his most skilled negotiator to defuse the situation. General Winfield Scott, known as Old Fuss and Feathers, was America's top military diplomat. Scott had been instrumental in preventing conflicts before, and Buchanan hoped he could work his magic again. When Scott arrived at San Juan Island in October, he was appalled by what he found. Two armies were facing each other over what he called the most ridiculous controversy he'd ever encountered. Scott immediately began working with British Governor James Douglas to find a peaceful solution. They agreed that the current situation was unsustainable and potentially catastrophic. The solution they crafted was ingenious in its simplicity. Both sides would maintain a token presence on the island while diplomats worked out the permanent boundary. The Americans would keep exactly 100 soldiers on the island. The British would station exactly 100 Royal Marines. No artillery would be allowed, reducing the chance of accidental escalation. This arrangement, known as joint military occupation, would last for 12 years. During this time, American and British soldiers actually got along quite well. They celebrated holidays together, competed in sporting events, and even attended each other's social functions. The only casualty during the entire pig war was Griffin's unfortunate boar. Meanwhile, diplomats continued working on the boundary dispute through official channels. The final resolution came in 1872, when both countries agreed to arbitration by Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany. The Kaiser ruled that the boundary should run through Haro Strait, giving San Juan Island to the United States. On November 25, 1872, the British flag was lowered for the last time on San Juan Island. The Americans had won the island, but both sides had won something more valuable: peace. The Pig War became a symbol of how nations could resolve disputes through diplomacy rather than bloodshed. Today, you can visit San Juan Island and see remnants of both military camps. The island is now known for its natural beauty, not its military tensions. But perhaps most remarkably, the Pig War showed that even the most absurd conflicts can be resolved peacefully. A single dead pig brought two nations to the brink of war, but wisdom and diplomacy prevailed. The Pig War remains one of history's most successful examples of how to turn a potential disaster into a diplomatic triumph.